ending my marriage because I want bio kids when I have to step kids who already lost their mom when I was 31 years old. I met a man whose eyes carried both sadness and hope. His name was David, and he had walked through one of life's most difficult storms. He was a widower, which meant his wife had passed away, leaving him to care for two beautiful children all by himself. Emma was 7 years old, with curly brown hair that bounced when she laughed, and Sam was 5 with the biggest smile you could imagine. From the very first moment we sat down for coffee together, I knew I had to be completely honest with David. My heart had always held a special dream, the dream of becoming a mother to a child who would grow inside me. This was not just a small wish that might fade away with time. It was what people call a deal breaker. Something so important to me that I could not imagine a life without it. David, I said gently, stirring my coffee with a small silver spoon, I need to tell you something very important about myself. I have always wanted to have biological children. If I cannot get pregnant naturally, I would want to try fertility treatments. These are special medical procedures that help people have babies when their bodies need extra help. I watched his face carefully as I continued. If this is something you are not comfortable with, I need you to tell me honestly. I do not want either of us to get hurt later by not being truthful now. David looked at me with kind eyes and reached across the table to hold my hand. His touch was warm and gentle. I understand completely, he said. I want more children too. Emma and Sam would love to have a little brother or sister. I think it would be wonderful for our family. Those words filled my heart with such joy. I felt like I had found not just a partner, but someone who truly understood my dreams and wanted to help them come true. Over the months that followed, I fell deeply in love with all 3 of them. David was kind and patient, always thinking of others before himself. Emma was curious about everything in the world, always asking questions and wanting to learn new things. Sam was the family comedian, making everyone laugh with his silly jokes and funny faces. The children had lost their mother, Sarah, when Emma was only 4 and Sam was 2. They had very few memories of her, which made my heart ache for them. I could see in their eyes sometimes that they wondered what it would have been like to have their mommy with them. I did my best to create new happy memories, but I knew there would always be a special place in their hearts that belonged only to her. David and I got married on a beautiful spring day. The ceremony was small and sweet, held in a garden filled with blooming flowers. Emma wore a pretty pink dress and carried a basket of flower petals. Sam wore a tiny suit with a bow tie that he kept trying to adjust because it tickled his neck. When the minister asked if anyone had anything to say, Sam raised his hand and announced, "I hope we can have cake soon." Everyone laughed, and it was perfect. After our wedding, David and I began trying to have a baby together. We were both so excited about the possibility of adding to our family. I imagined holding a tiny baby in my arms, watching David become a father to a new little one, and seeing Emma and Sam as proud big siblings. But month after month passed, and nothing happened. At first, we told ourselves to be patient. Sometimes these things take time, and we knew that. But as more months went by, I began to worry. I visited my doctor, who was very understanding and kind. "Sometimes our bodies need a little extra help," she explained. "There are medications we can try first, and if those do not work, we have other options." She gave me a special medication to take every day. I was so hopeful as I took those little pills, imagining that each one was bringing me closer to my dream of becoming a mother. But even with the medication, nothing changed. After several more months, my doctor suggested we do some tests to understand better what was happening. "These tests will help us figure out the best way to help you," she said with a reassuring smile. David and I went to the fertility clinic together. The building was quiet and peaceful, with soft music playing in the waiting room. The nurses were gentle and understanding, and they made sure we felt comfortable during all the tests. When the results came back, we sat in the doctor's office holding hands. The doctor, a kind woman with gray hair and a warm smile, explained everything to us carefully. The good news is that we can see exactly what is happening, and we have excellent options to help you, she said. I believe that something called IUI would have a very high chance of working for you. IUI stands for intrauterine insemination, and it is a procedure that helps the sperm reach the egg more easily. My heart leaped with joy. Finally, we had an answer and a path forward. I squeezed David's hand and looked at him with excitement, expecting to see the same happiness in his eyes. But something had changed. David's face looked troubled, and he was quiet during the drive home. That evening, as we sat on our porch watching Emma and Sam play in the yard, I asked him what was wrong. I have been thinking about everything the doctor said, he told me quietly. I am not sure we should spend the money on fertility treatments. We already have 2 beautiful children, maybe. We should just be grateful for what we have. I felt my breath catch in my throat when David spoke those words. It was like someone had suddenly turned off the warm sunshine on a perfect day. I sat there on our porch swing, watching Emma chase butterflies while Sam tried to catch fireflies in a jar, and I could not understand how everything had changed so quickly. David, I said softly, trying to keep my voice calm and gentle. Do you remember when we first met? I told you how important having biological children was to me. You said you understood. You said you wanted more children too. He looked out at the yard where our children were playing, their laughter filling the evening air. I know what I said, he replied, but that was before I really understood what it would mean. The money, the stress, the uncertainty. We have Emma and Sam. They need us. They love us. Is that not enough? I felt tears starting to form in my eyes, but I tried to blink them away. They are wonderful children, and I love them with all my heart. But David, this has not changed for me. I still want to experience pregnancy, to feel a baby growing inside me, to give birth, to nurse my own child. These are things I have dreamed about since I was a little girl. But why does it have to be biological? He asked, and I could hear frustration creeping into his voice. Love is not about sharing DNA. Look at how much Emma and Sam love you. Look at how much you love them. Is that not real because you did not give birth to them? I took his hand in mine, feeling how familiar and safe it was. Of course, that love is real. But David, there are different kinds of love and different kinds of relationships. I will always be their stepmom, even though I love them deeply. Their mother, Sarah, will always be their mom, even though she is no longer with us. But you could be their mom too, he said quietly. You could choose to be their mom in every way that matters. I shook my head gently. I cannot replace Sarah, and I would never want to. She gave them life. She was their first love, their first comfort, their first everything. I see it in their eyes sometimes, especially in Emma's. There is a longing there for someone they can barely remember, but will always love. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the children's happy voices. Sam had caught a firefly and was showing it to Emma, who was clapping her hands with delight. They were so innocent, so unaware of the adult conversation happening just a few feet away. I have money saved, I said finally. I have been saving for fertility treatments since before we met, because I always knew there was a chance I might need them. We would not have to take money away from Emma and Sam's college funds or anything like that. David sighed deeply. It is not just about the money, though. That is part of it. It is about what feels right. We have 2 children who need us. They have already lost one mother. How can we focus on bringing another child into the world when we should be pouring all our love and energy into them? They would love having a sibling. I said so yourself when we first talked about this. That was different, he replied. That was when I thought it would happen naturally. This feels different. This feels like we are trying to force something that maybe is not meant to be. I felt a cold feeling settling in my stomach. So you are saying you do not want to try? I am saying I think we should be grateful for what we have and not spend thousands of dollars chasing something that might not even work. When we already have a complete family. The word complete hit me like a physical blow. To him, our family felt complete. To me, it felt like something was missing, like there was an empty space waiting to be filled. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while David slept. Beside me, I could hear Emma talking quietly to her stuffed animals in the room next door, and Sam mumbling in his sleep. I loved these sounds, these signs of the family we had built together. But I also felt a deep sadness, a grief for the child, who existed only in my dreams. Over the next few weeks, I tried to talk to David about it several more times. I suggested we could start with just one round of IUI to see what happened. I offered to get a part-time job to pay for it myself, even though I had the money saved. I asked if he wanted to talk to the doctor again to understand the process better. But with each conversation, David became more firm in his position. I do not want to change my mind about this, he said one morning as we drank coffee before the children woke up. I think we should focus on being the best parents we can be to Emma and Sam. That should be enough. But it is not enough for me, I said quietly. I told you from the beginning that this was a deal breaker for me. That has not changed just because I love you and the children. David set down his coffee cup with a sharp clink. How can you still call it a deal breaker? We have 2 children, Sarah. 2 beautiful, amazing children who love you and need you. How are they not enough? It is not about them not being enough, I tried to explain. It is about me wanting to experience motherhood in all its forms. Want to feel a baby kick inside me? I want to go through labor and delivery. I want to nurse my own child. These are experiences I have always dreamed of having. But being biologically related should not be all that matters to you, he said. Love is what matters. And you have that with Emma and Sam. I felt tears running down my cheeks. I will always be their stepmom, David, even though their mom passed away. I will forever be stepmom. She will forever be mom. And I want to be someone's mom, not just someone's stepmom. The words hung in the air between us like a wall. I could see the hurt in David's eyes, but I also felt the pain in my own heart. We were both trying to protect something precious to us, but we were protecting different things. The morning after our difficult conversation, I woke up feeling heavy and sad. The house felt different somehow, as if the walls themselves knew that something had shifted between David and me. I made breakfast for Emma and Sam, listening to their cheerful chatter about their plans for the day, and I tried to smile and respond normally. But inside I felt like I was breaking apart. That evening, after the children had gone to bed, David told me he needed to talk to his family about our situation. I felt a knot form in my stomach because I knew what this meant. David came from a very close family who had supported him through the loss of his first wife. They had welcomed me warmly when we got married, and I had grown to love them too. But I also knew they would see this situation from David's perspective, not mine. I need to understand how they feel about this, David said as we sat in our living room. They love Emma and Sam like their own grandchildren. They might have insights I have not considered. I wanted to ask him not to involve his family yet, to give us more time to work through this together. But I could see in his eyes that he had already made up his mind. So I just nodded and said, I understand. The next few days passed quietly. David spent a lot of time on the phone with his parents, his sister, and his brother. I could hear the low murmur of his voice through the walls, but I could not make out the words. I did not try to listen because I knew it would only make me feel worse. Emma and Sam continued their normal routines, going to school and playing with their friends. Emma was working on a science project about butterflies, and Sam was learning to tie his shoes. I helped them with their homework and read them bedtime stories. trying to treasure these normal moments while my world felt like it was spinning out of control. Then, on a Thursday evening, David's family came over for dinner. His parents, Carol and Robert, arrived first, followed by his sister Linda and her husband Mark. They were all kind to me, but I could sense something different in the way they looked at me. There was a sadness in their eyes, maybe a little bit of confusion. We ate dinner together, talking about safe topics like the weather and the children's activities. Emma told everyone about her butterfly project, and Sam demonstrated his new shoe tying skills. For a while it felt almost normal, but after the children went to bed, Carol cleared her throat gently. "Sarah," she said, "David has told us about the situation with the fertility treatments. We wanted to talk to you about it." I felt my heart start to beat faster. "Of course," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Robert leaned forward in his chair. "We want you to know that we love you like a daughter," he said. "You have been such a gift to David and the children. We could not have asked for a better wife for him, or a better mother figure for Emma and Sam." "But," Carol continued, "we are having trouble understanding how you can still consider leaving when you have two children who need you so much. They have already lost their mother. How can you make them lose another one?" I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. "I do not want to hurt Emma and Sam," I said quietly. "I love them very much. But I also have to be honest about what I need in my life." Linda spoke up then. "But Sarah, being a true mother means putting your children's needs before your own wants. It means sacrificing your own dreams for their well-being. That is what Sarah, their biological mother, would have done." The mention of David's first wife made me feel even more emotional. "I know she would have been an amazing mother," I said, "but I am not her. I am me, and I have my own dreams and needs." "But why does it have to be biological?" Mark asked. "My wife and I adopted our son, and I can tell you that biology has nothing to do with how much you love a child. Love is what makes a family, not DNA." I tried to explain again, even though I felt like I was repeating myself. "I understand that love makes a family. I love Emma and Sam deeply. But I also want to experience pregnancy and childbirth. I want to feel what it is like to carry a child and give birth. These are experiences I have dreamed about my whole life." Carol shook her head sadly. "But dreams change, honey. When you become a mother, your children's needs become more important than your own dreams. Emma and Sam need stability. They need to know that the people who love them will not leave them. Only a monster could make children lose to mothers," Robert said quietly, but his words felt like a slap. I felt tears streaming down my face. "I am not a monster," I whispered. "I am a woman who wants to have a biological child. That does not make me evil or selfish." "But think about how Emma and Sam will feel," Linda said. "They will think they were not enough for you. They will think that their love was not valuable to you. How will that affect them for the rest of their lives?" David, who had been quiet through most of this conversation, finally spoke. "That is what I have been trying to tell her," he said. "We have two beautiful children who love us. We should be grateful for that blessing instead of asking for more." I looked around the room at all these people who had once made me feel so welcome and loved. Now, they were all staring at me with disappointment and confusion. I felt completely alone. "I need some air," I said, standing up quickly and walking out to the backyard. I sat on the porch swing where David and I had talked so many times before. I could hear their voices continuing the conversation inside, but I could not make out the words. I looked up at the stars and tried to remember who I was before all of this started. I had always known I wanted to be a mother. Even as a little girl, I had dreamed of holding my own baby, of feeling tiny kicks inside my belly, of singing lullabies to a child who had grown inside me. These dreams had shaped so many of my decisions throughout my life. They had influenced my career choices, my relationships, my financial planning. When I met David, I thought I had found someone who understood and shared these dreams. I thought we would build a family together that included both his children and our children. I never imagined that I would have to choose between loving his children and pursuing my own dreams of motherhood. But now, sitting alone under the stars, I realized that everyone else saw it as exactly that kind of choice. They saw my desire for biological children as a rejection of Emma and Dadaza. They saw it as selfish and cruel. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was being selfish. But I also knew that if I gave up this dream, I would spend the rest of my life wondering what might have been. I would always feel like something was missing, like I had not lived the full life I had planned for myself. When David's family finally left that evening, David came out to sit beside me on the swing. We sat in silence for a long time, listening to the crickets and the distant sound of cars on the highway. "I love you," he said finally, "but I do not understand you." "I love you too," I replied, "but I do not think love is enough to solve this problem." The weeks that followed felt like living in a house made of glass, where every word and every glance could shatter something precious. David and I moved around each other carefully, both of us trying to protect Emma and Sam from the tension that filled the air between us. We still had family dinners and helped with homework and read bedtime stories. But there was a sadness that seemed to follow us through our daily routines. I found myself watching the children more closely during this time, trying to understand what David's family had said about them needing me. Emma had started a new habit of climbing into my lap while I was reading or watching television. She would snuggle against me and say things like, "I love you, Sarah. You are the best stepmom in the whole world." Sam, who was usually full of energy and silliness, had become more clingy too. He would hold my hand when we walked to the mailbox, and he started asking me to lie down with him until he fell asleep at night. "Will you stay with me forever?" he asked one evening, his small hand holding mine tightly. These moments broke my heart because I could see how much they loved me and needed me. I could also see the fear in their eyes sometimes, as if they sensed that something was changing in our family. Children are much more aware of adult emotions than we sometimes think they are. But even as I treasured these sweet moments with Emma and Sam, I could not shake the deep longing in my heart for a biological child. I would see pregnant women at the grocery store and feel a sharp pain in my chest. I would hear babies crying in restaurants and wonder what it would feel like to comfort my own child. I would watch mothers pushing strollers and imagine myself in their place. I tried to explain these feelings to David one more time. We were sitting in our bedroom late one night, and I could hear Emma talking to her stuffed animals in the next room. She often had long conversations with them, telling them about her day and asking them questions. Sometimes I heard her talking to them about her first mommy and how she wished she could remember her better. "David," I said quietly, "I know you think I should be satisfied with being Emma and Sam's stepmom, but I need you to understand something. They will always long for memories of their biological mother that they do not have. They will always crave something I can never give them, no matter how much I love them." David looked at me with tired eyes. "But you are giving them something," he said. "You are giving them stability and love and a mother figure. That is incredibly valuable." "I know it is valuable," I replied, but I am not their mother. I am their stepmom, and there is a difference. Not a bad difference, but a real one. Sarah will always be their mother, even though she is gone. I will always be their stepmom, even though I love them with all my heart. But if you leave," David said, "they will lose another mother figure. How is that fair to them?" I felt tears starting to fall again. "It is not fair," I admitted. "None of this is fair. It is not fair that Sarah died when they were so young. It is not fair that you changed your mind about having more children. It is not fair that I have to choose between my own dreams and my love for your children." We sat in silence for a while, both of us crying quietly. Outside our window, I could hear the wind rustling through the trees, and somewhere in the distance, a dog was barking. These normal nighttime sounds felt strange and foreign, as if they belonged to a different world than the one we were living in. "I have been thinking about why you changed your mind," I said finally. "I think you are scared." David looked at me with surprise. "Scared of what?" "Scared of losing another child," I said gently. "Scared of something going wrong with the pregnancy or the birth? Scared of having to go through grief again if something happens to me or the baby?" David's face crumpled, and I knew I had touched on something true. "Maybe," he whispered, "maybe I am scared. Sarah died so suddenly. One day she was here, and the next day she was gone. The children were so young, I was so lost. I do not know if I could survive losing someone else I love." I reached over and took his hand. "I understand that fear," I said, "but you cannot let fear make all your decisions for you. Life is full of risks, but it is also full of beautiful possibilities." "But what if something goes wrong?" he asked. "What if the treatments do not work? What if they work but something happens during the pregnancy? What if I lose you too?" "Those are all possibilities," I said. "But what if everything goes right? What if we have a healthy baby who brings joy to all of us? What if Emma and Sam love being big siblings? What if we create even more happiness in our family?" David shook his head. "I cannot take that risk," he said. "I will not take that risk. I need to protect the family I have now." And in that moment, I knew that nothing I could say would change his mind. He had made his decision based on his own fears and experiences, just as I had made mine based on my own dreams and needs. The next morning, I called my sister Rachel, who lived in another state. She had always been my closest friend and advisor, and I needed someone to talk to who was not involved in this situation. "I do not know what to do," I told her, sitting in my car in the parking lot of the grocery store where I had gone to escape the sadness in my house. "I love David and the children so much, but I also love this dream of having a biological child. I do not know how to choose." Rachel was quiet for a long moment. She said finally, "I do not think this is really about choosing between loving David's children and having your own children. I think this is about choosing between two different versions of your life." "What do you mean?" I asked. "That in one version of your life, you stay married to David and focus all your energy on being the best stepmom you can be to Emma and Sam. You give up your dream of biological children, but you gain the security and love of the family you already have." "And in the other version?" I asked. "In the other version, you leave David and pursue your dream of having biological children? You might meet someone else who shares that dream, or you might choose to have a child on your own. But you lose the daily relationship with Emma and Sam, and you hurt them in the process." I started crying again. "Both versions have good things and bad things," I said. "How do I choose?" "I think you have to choose based on what you can live with," Rachel said gently. "Can you live with never having a biological child? Can you live with hurting Emma and Sam? Can you live with disappointing David's family? Can you live with giving up on a dream that has been part of you for so long?" Those were the questions that kept me awake at night for many weeks. I thought about them while I helped Emma with her homework, and while I played catch with Sam in the backyard. I thought about them while I cooked dinner, and while I folded laundry, and while I watched David sleep peacefully beside me. Finally, I realized that I could not live with giving up my dream of biological motherhood. It was too much a part of who I was. I had been honest about this from the very beginning of my relationship with David. I could not change something so fundamental about myself. But I also realized that this decision would hurt people I loved deeply. Emma and Sam would feel abandoned, even though that was not my intention. David would feel betrayed, even though I was just being true to what I had always told him about myself. There was no perfect answer, no solution that would make everyone happy. Sometimes life presents us with choices where someone will be hurt no matter what we decide. I chose to pursue my dream of motherhood, even though it meant leaving a family I had grown to love. It was the hardest decision I had ever made, but it was also the most honest one. As I write this story now, I hope that someday Emma and Sam will understand that my choice was not about them not being enough for me. It was about me needing to be true to myself and to the dreams that had shaped my entire life. I hope they will remember the love I had for them, not the pain I caused them. And I hope that other people who face similar impossible choices will know that there is no shame in choosing the path that feels most true to who you are. Even when that path leads away from people you love, sometimes the most loving thing we can do is to be honest about our own needs and limitations, even when that honesty is painful for everyone involved. Not letting my niece sew me a dress for a big career moment because she doesn't do a good job in a cozy house on Maple Street. There lived a woman named Claire who had worked very hard to build her career. She was talented, kind, and had spent many years learning and growing in her profession. Claire had a special event coming up, a moment she had been working toward for a very long time. She would be standing on a stage in front of many important people, sharing her knowledge and expertise with the world. Claire lived in a family that was full of love, but also full of very different personalities. Her sister-in-law Janet lived nearby with her daughter Emma, who was Claire's beloved niece. Emma was 15 years old and had recently discovered the wonderful world of sewing and crafting. She had bright eyes that sparkled with creativity, and her fingers were always busy. Working on some new project, Emma had learned to sew by watching videos on the internet. She would spend hours scrolling through tutorials, watching young people show off their latest creations. Many of these videos taught her that the best way to be creative was to use whatever materials she could find around the house. Old sheets, worn-out clothes, scraps of fabric became the building blocks of her artistic expression. Claire admired Emma's creativity and enthusiasm. She loved seeing her niece so passionate about something, and she wanted to encourage that passion in every way she could. When Emma made her first scarf using bright blue acrylic yarn, Claire wore it proudly during the cold winter months. Stitches were uneven, and the yarn was a bit scratchy, but Claire wore it because she loved Emma and wanted to support her creative journey. "Aunt Claire, you look so pretty in my scarf," Emma would say whenever she saw Claire wearing it, and Claire would smile warmly and give her niece a big hug. Over the months, Emma's projects became more ambitious. She started making simple tops and skirts, using old bed sheets and curtains she found at thrift stores. She would spend entire weekends cutting and sewing, creating colorful and unique pieces that reflected her young artistic spirit. Claire noticed that Emma's approach to sewing was very different from traditional methods. Emma did not use patterns or take measurements. She did not press her seams or finish her edges neatly. When Claire gently suggested that these steps might help her clothes look more polished, Emma would shake her head and say, "But Aunt Claire, that is not how they do it in the videos. They say it is more authentic to leave things natural and not worry about all those old-fashioned rules." Claire understood that Emma was following the style she saw on social media, where young creators celebrated a more relaxed, imperfect approach to crafting. She respected Emma's choice to learn this way, even if it meant the finished products were not as refined as they could be. "You know what, Emma?" Claire said one afternoon as they sat together looking at Emma's latest creation, a colorful patchwork skirt made from old pillowcases. "I think it is wonderful that you are expressing yourself through your sewing. Creativity comes in many different forms, and your way is special and unique." Emma beamed with pride. "Thank you, Aunt Claire. I love making things for people I care about. It makes me feel connected to them." Claire smiled and patted Emma's hand. "I love that about you, sweetie. Your generous heart is one of your most beautiful qualities." As time went on, Claire continued to wear Emma's creations when she was relaxing at home or running simple errands around town. She had a collection of colorful scarves, simple tops, and casual skirts that Emma had made for her. They were not perfect, but they were made with love, and that made them precious to Claire. Emma's mother, Janet, often talked about how important it was for families to share experiences together. Life is all about bonding, Janet would say. We need to find ways to connect with each other through shared activities and meaningful moments. Janet believed strongly that family members should support each other's interests and hobbies. She thought it was important for adults to participate in children's activities, even if those activities were not something the adults would normally choose to do. "Claire," Janet said one day as they sat drinking tea in her kitchen, "I think it is so wonderful how you support Emma's sewing. She talks about you all the time, and she feels so proud when you wear her creation." Claire nodded. "I am happy to support her. She is very talented, and I love seeing her so passionate about something." Janet continued, "I think experiences like this are what really matter in life. Not expensive clothes or fancy things, but the connections we make with the people we love." Claire agreed that relationships were important, but she also believed that there was room in life for both meaningful connections and beautiful, well-made things. She had worked hard to build her career, and part of that success had come from understanding that presentation and appearance could be important in professional settings. Claire's work required her to speak at conferences and meetings, where she shared her expertise with colleagues and clients. She had learned over the years that when she dressed professionally and felt confident in her appearance, she was able to focus better on her message and connect more effectively with her audience. As someone who wore larger sizes, Claire had also learned that clothes that fit well and were made with quality materials helped her feel more comfortable and confident. She had experienced how poorly fitting clothes could be distracting and uncomfortable, especially when she needed to be at her best professionally. This understanding of the importance of good clothing had led Claire to invest in a few high-quality pieces over the years. She had one beautiful handbag that she had saved up to buy, and she had a few dresses that had been professionally tailored to fit her perfectly. These items were not just clothing to her, they were tools that helped her do her job well and feel confident in professional settings. But Claire knew that Janet did not always understand this perspective. Janet believed that spending money on expensive clothes and accessories was wasteful when there were so many ways to find beautiful things for less money. She was very talented at finding treasures at thrift stores and creating beautiful decorations with inexpensive materials from craft stores. "I just do not understand why anyone would spend so much money on one bag when you could buy 3 or 4 bags for the same price," Janet had said when Claire showed her the handbag she had purchased. "I would rather put that extra money in savings or use it for something more practical." Claire understood Janet's point of view, but she also knew that different approaches to money and possessions could coexist in the same family. She respected Janet's thrifty creativity, and she hoped that Janet could respect her choice to invest in quality items when they were important to her career. One sunny Tuesday morning, Claire received some wonderful news. She had been selected to give a presentation at a major conference in her field. This was a huge honor and an important step forward in her career. She would be speaking to hundreds of professionals, sharing research and ideas that she had been working on for years. Claire felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness as she thought about this opportunity. She knew that this presentation could open doors for her future career, and she wanted to make sure everything went perfectly. She started planning immediately, thinking about her speech, her slides, and yes, what she would wear. Claire had been working with a skilled tailor to have a beautiful dress made for special occasions like this. The dress was being carefully crafted to fit her perfectly, with elegant lines and professional styling that would help her feel confident and comfortable on stage. The tailor had taken precise measurements and was using high-quality fabric that would photograph well. Under the bright conference lights, when Claire shared her exciting news with her family, everyone was thrilled for her. Emma was especially excited and immediately started bubbling over with ideas and enthusiasm. "Aunt Claire, this is amazing," Emma said, bouncing up and down in her chair. "I am so proud of you. You are going to be the most wonderful speaker they have ever had." Claire hugged her niece tightly. "Cute, sweetheart. I am nervous, but also very excited. This is something I have been working toward for a long time." Emma's eyes suddenly lit up with an idea. "Claire, I know exactly what would make this even more special. I could make you a dress for your presentation. It would be so meaningful. To wear something that was made with love by someone in your family." Claire felt her heart warm at Emma's generous offer, but she also felt a little worried. She knew how much this presentation meant to her career, and she needed to feel completely confident in her appearance. Emma's sewing skills, while improving, were still quite basic, and her casual, unfinished style would not be appropriate for such an important professional event. "That is such a sweet offer, Emma," Claire said gently. "But I actually already have a dress being made for me by a professional tailor. It should be ready just in time for the conference." Emma's face fell a little, but she quickly brightened. Again. "But you could wear that dress to something else. This presentation is so special. You should wear something that represents your family's love and support. It would be like carrying all of us with you on stage." Claire could see the excitement and hope in Emma's eyes, and she felt torn. She loved her niece dearly and wanted to support her creativity, but she also knew that this was not the right occasion for one of Emma's homemade creations. "Emma, I appreciate your offer so much," Claire said carefully. "But this is a very important professional event, and I need to wear something that is specifically designed for that kind of setting." Emma looked confused. "Aunt Claire, handmade clothes are so much more special than store-bought ones. Everyone will be able to see how much love went into making it. Is that not more important than having something that looks exactly like what everyone else is wearing?" Claire could see that Emma genuinely did not understand why her handmade dress would not be perfect for the occasion. Emma had grown up in a family where creativity and personal expression were valued above traditional ideas about appropriate dress codes. She had learned from social media that handmade, imperfect items were often more interesting and authentic than mass-produced ones. "Emma," Claire said gently, "I love wearing your creations when I am at home or running errands. But this conference is a professional event where I need to look polished and put together. Your sewing style is creative and fun, but it is not the right fit for this particular occasion." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "But Aunt Claire, we could work together on it. It would be such a special bonding experience for us. I could learn new techniques, and you could teach me about what makes clothes look professional." Claire felt her heart breaking a little as she saw how disappointed Emma was. She knew that Emma's mother, Janet, was always talking about the importance of family bonding experiences, and she could see that Emma had gotten excited about the idea of creating something special together. "Sweetheart," Claire said, sitting down beside Emma and taking her hands. "I love spending time with you, and I love supporting your sewing. But this particular project is not something we can work on together. The timeline is too short, and the stakes are too high for me to take any risks with my appearance." Emma pulled her hands away and crossed her arms. "You are just like all the other adults," she said sadly. "You say you support my creativity, but when it really matters, you do not trust me to do something important." Claire felt a pang of guilt, but she also knew that she was making the right decision. "Emma, it is not about trust. It is about appropriateness. There are different clothes for different occasions, and this is an occasion where I need to wear something very specific." Emma stood up and walked toward the door. "Fine," she said quietly. But I thought you would want to have something special from your family with you during such an important moment. After Emma left, Claire sat in her kitchen, feeling sad and conflicted. She loved Emma dearly, and she hated disappointing her. But she also knew that she had made the right decision for her career and her professional reputation. That evening, Janet called Claire to talk about the situation. "Claire," Janet said, "Emma is really hurt about the dress situation. She spent all afternoon crying in her room." Claire felt terrible. "I am so sorry that Emma is upset," she said. "I tried to explain my reasoning as gently as possible, but—" "Claire," Jeanette continued, "do you really think your appearance is more important than your relationship with Emma? This was a chance for the two of you to create something meaningful together." Claire took a deep breath. "Janet, I understand that you value family bonding experiences, and I do too. But this presentation is incredibly important for my career. I need to look professional and polished, and Emma's sewing style, while creative, is not appropriate for this setting." Janet was quiet for a moment. "I just think you care too much about what other people think," she said finally. "Emma's dress would have been made with love, and that should be what matters most." Claire felt frustrated. "Janet, I work in a professional environment where appearance does matter. Whether we like it or not, people make judgments based on how we present ourselves. This is especially true for me because I am plus-sized. I face additional scrutiny about my appearance." "But that is exactly why you should push back against those expectations," Janet said. "You should show them that handmade, authentic clothing is just as good as expensive, tailored pieces." Claire realized that she and Janet had very different perspectives on this issue. Janet saw it as an opportunity to challenge social norms and prioritize family relationships over professional expectations. Claire saw it as a situation where she needed to use every advantage she had to succeed in her career. "Janet," Claire said gently, "I understand your perspective, but I hope you can understand mine too. This presentation could change the trajectory of my career. I cannot afford to take any risks with my professional image." Janet sighed. "I just worry that you are becoming too focused on material things and not focused enough on what really matters. Your relationships with the people who love you." The next few days were difficult for Claire. She could feel the tension in her family, and she knew that both Emma and Janet were disappointed with her decision. Emma had become quiet and withdrawn when Claire visited, and Janet had made several more comments about Claire's priorities and values. Claire found herself second-guessing her decision at times. She loved Emma so much, and she hated causing any pain to her sweet niece. She also valued her relationship with Janet, even though they did not always see eye to eye on everything. On Thursday evening, Claire decided to visit Emma and try to have another conversation with her. She found Emma in her room working on a new sewing project, a colorful patchwork jacket made from old t-shirts. "That looks really interesting, Emma," Claire said, sitting down on the edge of Emma's bed. "I love the color combinations you chose." Emma looked up briefly but then returned her attention to her sewing. "Thank you," she said quietly. Claire took a deep breath. "I can see that you are still upset, and I want to make sure you understand why I made my decision." Emma set down her sewing and looked at Claire with sad eyes. "I understand, Aunt Claire. You think my sewing is not good enough for important events?" Claire felt her heart break. "Oh, Emma, that is not what I think at all. Your sewing is creative and beautiful in its own way. But different occasions call for different types of clothing, just like different occasions call for different types of behavior." Emma looked confused. "What do you mean?" Claire thought for a moment about how to explain this in a way that Emma would understand. "Well, think about it this way. When you are at school, you behave differently than when you are at home with your family, right? At school, you raise your hand to speak and follow the classroom rules. At home, you can be more casual and relaxed." Emma nodded. "Yes, that makes sense." Clothing works the same way, Claire continued. When I am at home or running errands, I can wear more casual, creative clothing like the beautiful pieces you have made for me. But when I am giving a professional presentation, I need to wear clothing that follows the expectations of that environment. Emma was quiet for a moment, thinking about this. But why do those expectations matter so much? Why cannot people just focus on what you are saying instead of what you are wearing? Claire smiled sadly. That is a very good question, Emma, and it is one that many people struggle with. In an ideal world, people would only care about the quality of someone's ideas and not about their appearance. But in the real world, appearance does influence how people perceive and respond to us. That seems unfair, Emma said. It is unfair in many ways, Claire agreed. But as someone who works in a professional environment, I have to navigate these expectations in order to be successful. Part of my job is to present myself in a way that allows people to focus on my message, rather than being distracted by my appearance. Emma picked up her sewing again and made a few stitches. But I still think my dress would have been special because it was made with love. Claire reached over and gently touched Emma's hand. You are absolutely right that it would have been special because it was made with love. But Emma, you show me love in so many other ways. You show me love when you text me funny memes that make me laugh. You show me love when you remember my favorite cookies and ask your mom to make them when I visit. You show me love when you listen to my stories about work and ask thoughtful questions. Emma looked up with a small smile. I do like hearing about your work. You do really important things. Love comes in many different forms, Claire continued. The love you put into your sewing is beautiful, but it is not the only way to show love. Sometimes, love means understanding what someone needs and respecting their choices, even if we do not completely agree with them. Emma was quiet for a long moment. So you are saying that it would be loving of me to understand why you need to wear a professional dress to your presentation? Claire nodded. That is exactly what I am saying. It would mean so much to me to know that you support my decision and that you understand why this is important to me. Emma set down her sewing and looked directly at Claire. I do want to support you and Claire. I am sorry if I made you feel bad about your decision. Claire felt tears forming in her eyes. Oh, Emma, you do not need to apologize. You were just trying to show love in your own way, and I appreciate that so much. Emma suddenly brightened. Maybe I could make you something else for your presentation. Not a dress, but maybe a special handkerchief or a small accessory that you could carry with you. Claire smiled warmly. That is a wonderful idea, Emma. Something small and special that I could keep in my purse would be perfect. Emma jumped up excitedly. I could embroider your initials on a piece of soft fabric. Or maybe I could make you a small charm for your keychain. Claire felt so relieved to see Emma's enthusiasm returning. Either of those ideas would be perfect, sweetheart. I would love to carry something you made with me, even if it is not something that people can see. Emma hugged Claire tightly. I love you, Aunt Claire. I am proud of you for getting chosen to speak at such an important conference. I love you too, Emma, Claire said, hugging her back. Thank you for understanding and for being so creative about finding a way to be part of this special moment. Later that evening, Claire had a conversation with Janet about the situation. Janet was still somewhat resistant to Claire's perspective, but she could see that Claire and Emma had worked things out between them. I still think you worry too much about what other people think, Janet said, as they sat together on her back porch. But I can see that this is really important to you professionally. Claire nodded. I understand that my priorities might seem different from yours, Janet. But I hope you can respect that I have put a lot of thought into this decision. Janet was quiet for a moment. I suppose I just worry that you are getting caught up in a world that values the wrong things. I want you to remember what is truly important in life, Claire appreciated Janet's concern, even though she did not completely agree with her perspective. I think there is room in life for both professional success and meaningful relationships, she said. I do not think I have to choose one or the other. Janet looked at Claire with a softened expression. I suppose you are right about that. I just want you to be happy, and I want Emma to feel valued and supported. Emma is incredibly valued and supported, Claire said firmly. She is creative, generous, and thoughtful. I am so proud to be her aunt, and I will continue to encourage her creativity in every way I can. Janet smiled. She's pretty special, is she not? She absolutely is, Claire agreed. And I think this experience has actually helped both of us understand each other better. In the days that followed, Claire felt much more at peace with her decision. Emma had started working on a small embroidered handkerchief for Claire to carry during her presentation, and she was putting extra care into making it beautiful and special. The tension in the family had eased, and everyone seemed to understand each other better. Claire found herself thinking about the conversation she had had with Emma about different types of love and different ways of showing support. She realized that this experience had taught her something important about standing firm in her decisions, while still being kind and understanding toward people who saw things differently. As someone who had worked hard to build her career, Claire had learned that there were times when she needed to prioritize her professional needs, even when it meant disappointing people she loved. This was not because she valued her career more than her relationships, but because she understood that different situations required different approaches. Claire thought about all the times throughout her career when she had faced criticism or pressure to compromise her professional standards. As a plus-sized woman, she had encountered people who made assumptions about her based on her appearance. She had learned that dressing professionally and presenting herself with confidence helped her overcome some of these biases and allowed people to focus on her expertise rather than their preconceived notions. This understanding had shaped many of Claire's decisions about her appearance and her professional presentation. When she had purchased her expensive handbag, it was not because she was materialistic or superficial. It was because she understood that high-quality accessories could enhance her professional image and help her feel more confident in important meetings. Similarly, when she had decided to have a dress professionally tailored for her presentation, it was not because she looked down on handmade clothing. It was because she understood that this particular occasion required a specific type of presentation, and she wanted to use every advantage she had to succeed. Claire had learned over the years that success in her field required a careful balance of expertise, confidence, and professional presentation. She had worked hard to develop her knowledge and skills, but she had also learned that how she presented herself could influence how others received her message. Emma's handkerchief project was coming along beautifully. She had chosen a soft, cream-colored fabric and was carefully embroidering Claire's initials in elegant script. She had also added a small design of a star, which she said represented Claire's moment to shine on stage. I am being extra careful with this project, Emma told Claire one afternoon as they sat together working on their respective tasks. I want every stitch to be perfect because I know how important this is to you. Claire was touched by Emma's attention to detail and her desire to create something truly special. It is already perfect, Emma, because it is made with love and care. I will treasure it always. Emma smiled proudly. Different videos online about embroidery techniques. I wanted to learn some fancier stitches to make this extra special for you. Claire was impressed by Emma's willingness to learn new skills and techniques. She could see that Emma was growing as a crafter and developing a more sophisticated understanding of different types of sewing and embroidery. Emma, Claire said, I think this experience has been good for both of us. You have learned about different approaches to creating beautiful things. I have learned about different ways of showing love and support. Emma nodded thoughtfully. I think I understand better now why different occasions need different types of clothing. Not as like how I dress differently for school than I do for hanging out at home. Claire was pleased to see that Emma had internalized the lesson about appropriateness and context. Exactly right. And it does not mean that one type of clothing is better than another. They are just different tools for different situations. As the day of Claire's presentation approached, she felt increasingly confident and prepared. Dress had been completed and it fit perfectly. The fabric was beautiful, and the styling was both elegant and authoritative. When Claire tried it on, she felt like the best version of herself, confident, professional, and ready to share her expertise with the world. Emma had finished the embroidered handkerchief, and it was truly beautiful. The stitching was neat and precise, and the star design was charming and meaningful. Claire planned to keep it in her purse during the presentation, where she could touch it if she felt nervous and remember all the love and support from her family. The night before the presentation, Claire's extended family gathered for dinner to wish her well. Emma presented her with the finished handkerchief, and everyone admired the beautiful workmanship. "This is absolutely gorgeous, Emma," Claire said, holding the delicate fabric carefully. "I can see all the love and effort you put into making it perfect." Emma beamed with pride. "I wanted it to be something you could keep with you always, not just for tomorrow. Whenever you have important events in the future, you can carry it. And remember that your family believes in you." Claire felt tears forming in her eyes. "That is the most thoughtful gift anyone has ever given me. Thank you for understanding what I needed and for finding such a perfect way to be part of this moment." Janet, who had been watching the exchange with a soft smile, spoke up. "I think this worked out better than anyone could have planned. Emma got to create something meaningful for you, and you get to have your family's love with you in a way that fits perfectly with your professional needs." Claire nodded. "Sometimes the best solutions are the ones we do not think of right away. This taught me that there are often creative ways to honor everyone's needs and feelings." The next morning, Claire woke up feeling excited and confident. She put on her beautiful tailored dress, which fit perfectly and made her feel powerful and professional. She carefully placed Emma's handkerchief in her purse, where she could feel it whenever she needed a reminder of her family's love and support. At the conference, Claire's presentation was a tremendous success. She spoke clearly and confidently, sharing her research and insights with an audience of hundreds of professionals. Several times during her talk, she discreetly touched her purse, feeling the soft fabric of Emma's handkerchief and drawing strength from the love it represented. After her presentation, many people approached Claire to compliment her on her talk and to ask questions about her work. She felt proud and accomplished, knowing that she had represented herself and her expertise in the best possible way. When Claire returned home that evening, her family was waiting to celebrate with her. Emma was the first to hug her, eager to hear about how everything had gone. "It was perfect," Claire told them all. "I felt confident and prepared, and I knew that I had all of your love and support with me." Emma looked up at her with shining eyes. "Did you think about the handkerchief during your presentation?" Claire nodded. "I did. Every time I felt a little nervous, I touched my purse and remembered that I was carrying a piece of your love with me. It made me feel so much braver." Emma hugged Claire tightly. "I am so proud of you, Aunt Claire. You were right about wearing the professional dress, and I am glad I could still be part of your special day in my own way." Claire realized that this experience had taught her something valuable about love, family, and professional success. She had learned that it was possible to honor her professional needs while still maintaining loving relationships with family members who had different perspectives. She had also learned that sometimes the most meaningful compromises were the ones that honored everyone's core needs and values. Most importantly, Claire had learned that love could be expressed in many different ways, and that the most powerful expressions of love were often the ones that truly understood and supported what someone needed most. As she tucked Emma's handkerchief carefully into her jewelry box that night, Claire smiled, knowing that she would carry it with her to every important event for the rest of her career. It would always remind her of the love that surrounded her and the family that believed in her dreams.